G'day everyone, and welcome to Lecture 4 for BMA 703 Entrepreneurship. What we're going to talk about in this lecture is the importance of leadership in innovation and entrepreneurship. Leaders are really important in organisations for a whole range of reasons, but certainly when it comes to driving innovation and entrepreneurship within organisations, leaders play a critical role in ensuring that the right sort of atmosphere is created around the organisation and that people remain motivated to achieve entrepreneurial and innovative outcomes for the organisation. Now, in completing this lecture, you should read chapter 3 of the text, which provides a good overview of some of the leadership characteristics that we need to see in place for innovation and entrepreneurship to happen. And in addition, you should also have a look at the couple of articles that I've put up about entrepreneurial leadership and the different styles of entrepreneurial leadership that we might see out there. You know, there's not sort of one approach, there's a number of different styles that might work in different contexts. So, strong leadership is really a fundamental attribute of any organisation's success. Yes, it's important to have people at all levels performing well and working towards achieving the organisation's objectives, but a leader plays a critical role in actually coordinating all of that activity and ensuring that everyone is moving in the same general direction towards achieving the overarching organisational goals. And so when it comes to driving innovation and entrepreneurship, it's really important that we have a dedicated person in the organisation who is going to champion the cause of innovation and entrepreneurship and is really going to drive and lead the organisation's activity in that particular space. And in any organisation, whether it's a startup, whether it's a large organisation, whether it's a mature organisation, we need leaders in place who can help us to align effort, resources and goals across time to ensure that we're achieving the best sort of outcomes for our organisation. And so leaders are really critical in orchestrating those sort of activities within the organisation. Now, there are many different theories of leadership out there, and for those of you who've done subjects like organisational behaviour before, you will have been exposed to a different number of these theories, and each has their own relative advantages and disadvantages. And while we can argue about which sort of approach to leadership is best, there's no argument that leadership is really critical in terms of making a difference. And I think that's what gets lost sometime in that debate around what's effective leadership, that you do need a leader. What type of leadership model they might use is debatable. And to be honest, I tend to believe that there is no one best approach to leadership. I think that the leadership model that an individual chooses really has to be informed by the context in which they're operating and competing, and the team in which they're leading. Because remember, a leader is only as good as their followers. And so it's really important that we adapt our leadership style so that we're able to work effectively with different types of people. And in order for an organisation to innovate and to engage in entrepreneurship, we need to be able to do a number of things. We need to get a number of things right. And in all of these cases, what we tend to see is that leaders play a critical role in this process. So the first thing we need to do is ensure that there's a high-level business strategy and that this fits with our innovation strategy. Okay, so one of the key things that organisational leaders do is to set the strategic direction for the organisation. And it's their responsibility to ensure that there is this alignment between what our overall business strategy looks like and what the innovation strategy for the organisation might be. We also need to make sure that that we're simultaneously managing the development and implementation of new products or new streams of value with our mainstream activities. Okay, and there's a balancing act that an organisation is engaged in. And we talked last week about the need for a portfolio approach, that we need to manage a range or a portfolio of different resources over time to ensure that we're achieving the best outcomes. We need to make sure that every project we run is well managed and is performing to its objectives. Oversight is critical, and often what we see in organisations, a lot of effort goes into the planning phase and developing the ideas of what we're going to do, but the same level of effort doesn't go into ensuring that the project remains on task. And so effective management of the project and ensuring that there's a constant assessment of performance against objectives is a really critical function of what leaders do. We also know that setting up cultural and behavioural elements of the organisation is critical for innovation success. And so again, leaders play a very important role in setting cultural tone. So often through leading by example, they set the expectations and the behavioural norms that people within the organisation would work with. They can use rewards and punishments as a way to reinforce cultural values and behavioural aspects that they see as being important in innovation. And so again, leaders are really critical in that part of the process. Again, people at all organisations might have a role to play, but it's the overall leader of the organisation that's really critical in that part of the process. We need to make sure that we measure our parameters of performance. And so again, leaders are critical for ensuring that effective measurement is actually occurring. And that top management really have to set the standard for innovation. Okay, so it's the actions of these senior leaders within organisations that's really critical to ensuring that innovation and entrepreneurial behaviour happens. So the many requirements for innovation success and the tasks that will lead to their accomplishment don't happen by themselves. And left to their own devices, organisations will just blunder along without any real purpose or focus in terms of what they're trying to do. And so it's only through leadership, it's only through an effective management of the people in the organisation that we're able to achieve the objectives that we want for our organisation, and that we're able to move towards a new innovation and entrepreneurial set of behaviours. So without effective leadership of the innovation activity within an organisation, we're likely to see the organisation become very dysfunctional, and for our organisation to fail to achieve the outcomes and success that they should as an organisation. So again, leaders play a critical role for guidance. I mean, that's what a leader does. They don't get down, or shouldn't get down, into the micro details of what's happening on a day-to-day basis. Their job is to orchestrate and to manage the interactions of people within the organisation to ensure there is a general focus and purpose to what it is that the business is trying to achieve. And one of the critical things an effective leader needs to be able to demonstrate is passion. Okay, it's all well and good to have a high level of technical skills, to be highly knowledgeable about what's happening within the organisation, but also what a leader has to do is inspire. If a leader can't inspire people to follow, then they're not really leading. And we see this all the time, that there's quite skilled people with high levels of knowledge, but they fail to ignite the passion of their staff. They fail to ignite the interest of the people working for them. If we look at the great leaders of organisations, if we look at people like Steve Jobs or Elon Musk, these people are inspirational characters. They're people look up to. They're people that others look up to, that people want to be like, that people want to work with and share the same passions with as these people. And so it's really critical for an innovative leader to have high levels of passion, and that this passion is very important for modelling the behaviours of other people. Okay, if we're going to be successful in encouraging the people around us to engage in the innovation and entrepreneurial process, we really need to convey that passion for entrepreneurship and innovation to those individuals. And again, we can see that people like Steve Jobs, whether people love him or hate him, people saw the passion he had for that company. He loved Apple. He saw Apple as critical to the future and success of his own career, and he conveyed that passion to all the people who worked around them, and he energised them. And we could see the outpouring of grief amongst some of the people who worked with him upon his death. And leaders are really like the glue that hold an organisation together. Leaders play an important linking role, pulling together disparate groups of people, whether they're individuals or teams of people within an organisation, and getting them working together with a shared purpose to achieve a particular organisational outcome. If we don't have that sort of focus and shared purpose, then it's really difficult for an organisation to be cohesive. So again, the role of leaders is really like this great overarching controller general who looks down and sees all the different parts of the organisation, and often people at the lower levels of the organisation aren't in a position to understand the importance and relevance of all the different linkages in the organisation. And it's the job of those leaders to bring together new connections, to maintain existing connections, to ensure that the organisation achieves the innovation outcomes that they're looking to do. And so again, leaders are really critical in that process. And I think that point is often overlooked. I think people tend to think of leaders as just simply sitting at the top of the organisation and not actually having that role to play in creating organisational cohesiveness. If you don't have an effective leader who pulls people together, the different parts of the organisation tend to spin off on their own and pursue their own objectives. And so leaders really ensure that everyone is working together to achieve the same outcome. So we've established that leadership is really important. What I want to do now is just talk through some of the characteristics that we see as being needed for leading innovation and entrepreneurship within organisation. And these are referred to as innovation leadership capabilities. They're abilities of individuals within organisations that enable them to contribute significantly to driving the innovation focus and purpose of the organisation. And so we're going to talk through these different aspects, and there's 14 of them in total, again, that we could look at. And we're going to talk about some of the contexts and situations in which these characteristics would be important.